Today we're asking questions about a Truth Social post from the president. He posted, or truthed, a fake story about former President Obama getting paid royalties for Obamacare. There's no truth to that. The claim, if you can call it that, originated on a website called the Dunning-Kruger Times, which notes on its About section, quote, "Everything on this website is fiction," unquote. Everything. And yet, President Trump posted something from that site on Truth Social as if it were a true and factual news story from a legitimate source. President Trump even wrote in all caps, "Wow. Wow, indeed."
What's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here. What kind of gullible individual falls for some lame-brained conspiracy theory they saw on a parody webpage like The Onion and think that it's gospel truth? On Sunday, Donald Trump went on Truth Social and claimed that President Barack Obama earned over $40 million in royalties from Obamacare. Good Lord, folks, you can't make this crap up.
We asked the White House for comment about why the president reposted this story from the Dunning-Kruger Times. The statement that they sent back from the White House, it didn't address why the president shared that false headline.
That post alone racked up millions of views from his 11 million strong following. And you didn't have to scroll far before seeing one of these toothless inbred jackaloons reposting it on Facebook like they had just uncovered the smoking gun. And that right there is the MAGA echo chamber in full bloom.
As for the Dunning-Kruger Times followers, well, the website calls those folks taters, quote, or conservative fans of America's last line of defense, which is the spin-off network. Dunning-Kruger Times describes taters as fragile, frightened, mostly older Caucasian Americans who believe nearly anything, unquote.
Jake Tapper nailed it, proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that correlation does not equal causation. MAGA's entire hustle depends on blurring that line. New age grifters and fake psychics have been doing this for decades, and dumb people keep falling for it. And when you call them out, they get mad, because in their minds, criticism equals persecution. There's an old saying, if you're going to be dumb, you got to be tough. Well, these folks make it look like an Olympic sport of stupidity.
While we're on the subject of the Dunning-Kruger Times, I want to tell you about the Dunning-Kruger effect. And it starts in 1995 when some bank robbers outside Pittsburgh are picked up because they had robbed a bank with no mask, no disguise, no sunglasses, no mustaches. They were caught on closed circuit TV, and they were stunned that they were caught. Why were they stunned? Because they were under the belief that if they put lemon juice on their faces, they would be invisible. That's what they thought. A Cornell psychologist, a Cornell professor of psychology, Mr. Dunning, heard that and was stunned and wanted to find out more. And he did a study. And basically, the study suggests that the less somebody knows about a subject, the more they think they are an expert on that subject. In other words, stupid people don't know how stupid they are because they're so stupid. That's what the Dunning-Kruger Times is.
From the dumbest criminals who get caught red-handed to the guys who brag about their dementia tests like they've aced a high-level exam, the sad truth is, people who know the least often think they know the most. That's what's known as the Dunning-Kruger effect. One week they're corporate lawyers, and the next they're doctors, telling you to avoid vaccines and toothpaste. Never mind the underwater alien bases or the rapture dates that never come true. The power of the con is always in the pitch, and as we've seen again and again, there's no shortage of stupid people ready to buy the ticket and take the ride. Many of them are MAGA morons who don't even realize how stupid that they really are. They grab onto this nonsense and get swept away into fantasy land. In the more extreme cases, when they act out those delusions, they wind up behind bars, jaws on the floor, stunned that they ever got caught. This urge to want something to be real so badly that you reject every fact that disproves it, that's MAGA's whole identity. They confuse correlation with causation. They see coincidence and then they call it conspiracy. Trump's little Obama made $40 million from Obamacare claim? Yeah, that came from a website called the Dunning-Kruger Times, a website that, and this is not a joke, literally says right there on the homepage, everything on this website is fiction. You can't parody that. It's already parodying itself. Tapper explains that the Dunning-Kruger Times is part of a parody network called America's Last Line of Defense. And the fans of that network, the ones who repost this garbage and treat it like gospel, they even have a name. Taters. Imagine that combination. Tater brains rehashing lies and red matter faces when they get called out on their own shenanigans. The site itself describes its audience as fragile, frightened, mostly older Caucasian Americans who believe nearly anything. So let's do the math. The guy who dressed up like the lead singer of Journey, belting out "Don't Stop Believing," just got fooled by a fake news site that openly mocks its readers for being gullible idiots? Behold the Dunning-Kruger effect in its natural habitat, folks. Let's double back down on what this really is. MAGA doesn't just reject science. They want to replace it with conspiracy. They want to rewrite history until the villains look like victims and the heroes disappear into the footnotes. Math, they love it only when it favors the rich and forgets the poor. Social studies, geography, biology, they failed all of them, yet still demand to teach the class. And when reality doesn't fit their fantasy, they invent a new one. They build a world where feelings outweigh facts, where faith means never having to face checks and balances at all. They try to blur the line between correlation and causation, between coincidence and conspiracy, because that blur is where their whole movement lies. In fear-mongering, in lies, in an unwillingness to be anything different. But here's the truth. There is no blurring this line. Facts are facts, lies are lies, and the Dunning-Kruger effect isn't just a study. It's the MAGA manifesto, and that is an absolute fact. Sappers clear the way, airborne all the way.